Okay, we're going to learn the differences between ser and estar right now. So both of them mean to be, but they have slight differences between them. First, we're going to do ser. It's a permanent to be. So things that never change, they always stay the same. And we have an acronym that goes with it, and it's todo. Todo means all, so all the time, permanent. The T stands for time. So all of our time expressions are going to be used with ser. Our origin, so this is where we're from, okay? And to say from in Spanish is de. So anytime you see de in a place, you know it's going to be the origin. It's also a description, and this is a physical description of stuff that's never going to change. Like, I am blonde, that's a permanent trait. I am a girl, that's a permanent trait. I am mean, permanent trait. Then we get to occupation, and this is your job. So I am a teacher, you are a student, my mom is a lawyer, my dad is a doctor. So stuff like that, so your occupation. One thing about this though is we never use the indefinite article a. So in Spanish we're literally going to say I am teacher, you are student. So we don't use un or una right there. Moving on, we have estar. So estar is for more temporary things, and so we have the acronym LOCO, meaning crazy, and so everybody once in their lifetime has been temporarily crazy, and so that's what we use for estar. So the L stands for location, the O stands for emotion, and the C stands for the condition, like how you're doing right now. Like right now, I'm really good. And the O stands for ongoing state, and we're actually going to learn that in Chapter 1 of Spanish. Or Spanish 2. Okay, you have 7 little exercises on your sheet. Pause this video really fast and complete those 7. Okay, let's go over them. So, in order to figure out which one we need to use, we need to look what comes after the blank in order to determine if it's a time, origin, description, emotion, condition, any of those things. So let's look at number 1. We have inteligente. So, inteligente is going to be a permanent description because it describes a person's intelligence. Hopefully that doesn't change very often. So we're going to use soy right there. For number 2, we have in Panama. So whenever we see this in, we're going to know that it's a location. So we're going to use estar. Okay, number 3, we have de Panama. So when we see this de, we know that it's an origin, where we're from. So we're going to use the verb ser. Okay, triste, that's an emotion, it means sad, and so it's a temporary thing, it changes very often, so we're going to use estar. For number 5, we have las 3:30. This means 3:30, so obviously that's a time, we're going to use ser. Okay, muy bien. Muy bien means really good, so that's a condition of how we are right now, so we're going to use the verb estar. And then number 7, we have médica, and that means a doctor. So that's going to be a job or an occupation. So we're going to use ser. Okay, and now we're going to move on to Gustar-like verbs. Everybody's favorite because they're so complicated and hard to use. So let's go ahead and go over the 6 Gustar-like verbs we learned in Spanish 1. So the first one is gustar, obviously. That's where it gets its name from. And this means to like or to be pleasing. Then we have aburrir, and this means to bore. Interesar, to interest, español of course. And then doler, it means to hurt. Faltar means to be lacking or to need. And then importar, this means to be important. Okay. So, a weird thing happens whenever you have a gustar-like verb. Normally, when we conjugate verbs and write sentences in Spanish, we always have the subject, and then the verb, and then whatever comes after the sentence. Well, this time, it's not the case. The subject is going to go after the verb. This is crazy for our minds, but we've got to train ourselves to read the sentence from backwards to forwards, and that's also how we're going to have to write them. We're going to have to start at the end, and then move our way to the beginning. So let's look at this. We're going to start at the end, just like I said. So the thing at the very, very, very end of this sentence will always be your subject. Okay? We're going to do the singular first. Okay? So if your subject is el perro, which means the dog, obviously, and we're going to use the form of gustar. So when we get to the verb, there's only going to be two forms of the verb because there's only going to be a singular subject or a plural subject. Okay, so singular meaning one thing, plural meaning two things. So we're going to use the it form of gustar in order to conjugate it because pero matches with gusta. This is the it form and this is an it. Okay? So for peros, for the plural form, we're going to have to use the plural they form of the verb. So we have to write our subjects first so we know what form of the verb to use. Okay, so if this is singular, the verb has to be singular as well. If the subject is plural, then the verb has to be plural or in the they form as well. And then we get to our person over here. So we have, these are our indirect object pronouns. And so this one, me, means me. Te means you. Le means him or her. Nos means us. Os means y'all. And les means them. Okay, so the first step whenever we're writing a sentence using Gustar-like verbs, we're going to start at the end. We always have to start at the end. Okay, to say the dog pleases me, we're going to say me gusta el perro. So even though we read it normally, we have to interpret it the opposite way. Okay, and whenever we form it, that's how we have to think about it as well. To say the dog pleases them, we're going to say les gusta el perro. To say the dog pleases you, we're going to say te gusta el perro. So notice these people over here, the person, has nothing to do with the form of the verb, okay? The form of the verb is only determined by the subject that comes after it. And we're only going to have the singular form, so the el form, or the plural form, the ellos form of the verb. Okay? So now let's move on to the plural one. So los perros gustan. To say the dogs please me, we're going to say me gustan los perros. To say the dogs please y'all, it's going to be os gustan los perros. So let's do some quick examples really fast. So at the bottom, we have some Gustar-like sentences. So we're going to learn how to translate them to English, and all you have to do is read from backwards to forwards, and it makes a lot more sense. So let's look at this one. Me gusta español. In order to interpret what it says, we're just going to have to read it backwards. So Spanish pleases me. Okay? So Spanish is at the end. It's our subject, followed by our verb. So this is singular, so we have the singular form of the verb. And then me is the person. Moving on. Nos aburre golf. So in order to read it like we understand in English, we're going to have to flip it backwards. So golf bores us. So golf bores us. We just have to read it backwards. And notice this is singular, so we use the singular form of the verb. Okay. A Pedro le duelen los pies. Once again, we just have to read it backwards. So los pies, so the feet, duelen, hurt, and le, meaning him. And we have a Pedro at the front just for extra clarification. So the feet hurt him. Notice we have the plural form of the verb because our subject here at the end is plural as well. Okay, and one last example. Les interesan los jugadores. So we're once again reading it from backwards to forwards. So los jugadores is the players. Interesan means interest, and then les means them. So the players interest them. We have the plural form of the verb because our subject here at the very end is plural.